and welcome back to Trope. Well, today I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm doing a book review, or more accurately, a web novel review. I've been on Royal Road for some time and found some very interesting novels. Today I'm doing my review on one such novel that has caught my attention and held it with both hands. It's the one I follow most closely. You should have seen the title of the novel in the title of this video. Well, I'll be handing you over to our resident cat scare cat for more information. Take it away.
I love my job. Good morning, all you tropers out there. I'm one of the many cat scare cats you've seen in the movies, and after many arduous negotiations with the Cat Scare Cat Union, I was permitted to come out and talk to you today. Oh, and don't worry, I'm told that they found a competent substitute for me. Well, today I'm here to talk to you about a horror-themed web novel that does things a little bit differently. That's because this one is a game lit or LitRPG novel. Now, I know what some of you are already thinking. Half the novel is going to be character sheets and stat screens repeated ad nauseum every time any of the so-called characters level up. Nope, that isn't the case here, because the author, Lost Rambler, even does LitRPG a little bit differently. So, before we get into all the tropey goodness, let's do a quick overview of the novel. And be warned, this review will contain minor spoilers. The novel I'm reviewing today is called The Game at Carousel, a horror movie lit RPG, and it is hosted at the site Royal Road. McPeeve has assured me that the link will be in the description. For you, TLDR, too long didn't read, I give the novel 5 stars easily. Go read it. Now on to the review. Fans of the cult classic Cabin in the Woods will draw immediate parallels between that movie and this web novel. But I assure you, any resemblance between the two is only surface deep. The viewpoint character, the reason I don't necessarily call him the main character, will become clear as we go on. That person's name is Riley. He and his friends are lured to the titular town/eldritch location of Carousel. According to the novel's official description, a malevolent town where horror movies come to life. Shortly after arrival and surviving the first tutorial storyline, he is assigned the class, Red Archetype, Film Buff, and the trope, Oblivious Bystander. From this point forward, archetypes will determine the role and importance of the various characters in the storyline, and the skills/abilities, red tropes, will determine the effects they have on the quests, red storylines they will participate in. Again, quoting the official description, Riley thinks he is in big trouble when he is assigned the Film Buff archetype, a minor support class that has a penchant for dying early in the movies. Well, it's not so simple. Both the novel and the author's Discord page explain the system in use in the novel verse. Survival, the effectiveness of equipped tropes. Yes, tropes can be equipped like runes in Suikoden, or materia in Final Fantasy. And the order in which the characters die during the storylines is determined by plot armor. Plot armor, usually the thing that keeps important or named characters from dying in action-based movies, novels, TV shows, and video games, is the closest thing to a level used in the system. A character's plot armor is the sum of 5 stats, assigned to every character: mettle, moxie, hustle, savvy, and grit, each of which has a corresponding name or purpose in a gaming setting. Mettle for strength and attack power, moxie for charisma and the ability to sway others, hustle for agility and dexterity, savvy for intelligence and effectiveness of plans, and lastly, grit for defensive power and trope/ability resistance. For example, film buffs and scholar archetypes, one of which belongs to a friend of the VPC, viewpoint character, are normally high in savvy, while more action-oriented archetypes, like athletes and bruisers, have higher mettle and grit. Again, the sum of all points in all categories will determine a character's overall plot armor. Remember that I mentioned storylines before? Well, they have established phases, and while this may threaten to make them formulaic and thus predictable, it is the formulaic nature that gives the characters a chance of survival. And I can assure you, they are nowhere near as predictable as they seem. The phases are the omen, the choice, the party, first blood, rebirth, second blood, the finale or final battle, and the end. On Last Rambler's Discord board, Web the Chronic Lurker gives a breakdown of each phase. The omen, ominous foreshadowing, signals the oncoming danger. The choice, the player chooses not to heed the warning. It should be noted that a storyline can be avoided or forestalled if the players either ignore the omen or simply do not meet a specific condition. This happens near the start of the novel, when Riley's group first arrives. Moving on. The party. The players explore the setting and story scenario, unaware of the peril to come. With a caveat, they are unaware of the specific peril. First blood. The monster attacks either literally or figuratively. The first victim is claimed, and tension among the players and NPCs mounts, though this does not necessarily mean that someone has died. They could have been abducted. Rebirth. The players undergo an epiphany that allows them to move from reacting to acting. Reveals the true nature of the story. There are caveats here too, which are revealed in the later chapters of the novel, at the time of this writing, of course. Second blood. The monster attacks again. Now that's pretty straightforward, isn't it? And at finale, final battle. The final sequence. No new information can be obtained. The players mount a final attack. And then, the end. Story's over. At the end of each storyline, physical injuries, and I repeat, physical injuries, are healed. Dead players are revived, and awards are given by the enigmatic machine called Silas the Showman, the most visible and somewhat interactive element of Carousel. Benevolent or malevolent, that's for the reader to decide. Web the Chronic Lurker goes on to describe the various narrative conditions or status effects shown on Carousel's red wallpaper, a type of stat screen that is analogous to the screen seen in many video games when one presses the select button. Unscathed, unconscious, hobbled, mutilated, incapacitated, dead, captured, written off screen, chase scene, fight scene. Planning, exploring, or doomed. Unscathed means healthy. Nothing's happened to you yet. Hopefully, it stays that way. Unconscious, not aware or alert. Hobbled. Some terrible wound has left you less dexterous than before. Debuffs your hustle. Hope you can fight, because running may no longer be an option. Mutilated. The player is heavily wounded and their grit is debuffed. Incapacitated. The pain is near unbearable. The character often cannot move, or, if they can, only at a crawl. The pain is near death in the incapacitated state. And then, of course, there is dead. You have been killed. There is no longer any part for you in the story. Pretty close to death is written off. You have been removed, captured. You are in someone's custody for some purpose. Maybe you are in police custody. Maybe you're in the monster's custody. Maybe you're in your crazy girlfriend's custody. Written off. You have been removed from the story, but you're not dead. Written off can mean you have been hobbled or crippled and are or incapacitated and have been moved to the hospital. Again, you could also be incapacitated, bleeding out, and left by your compatriots. Whatever the reason, your role in the story has ended, but you have not died. Though, not time to take a breather yet. Remember, your team has to make it, or you die. Permanently. The chase scene. The monster or villain is after you. Your hustle is the trope that will determine whether or not you can escape. Now, it's important to note here, hustle is the determining factor. Even if your character is fast and the movie monster that's after you is slow, hustle is what determines whether or not you get away. If your hustle is lower than the monsters, then they will catch you, regardless of your actual speed. Fight scene. Metal versus grit. Both ways. When you are attacked, your grit determines how much damage you take. When you attack the monster, your metal determines how much damage you give. Planning. How to handle the threat. The scholar's stock and trade. Exploring. Usually done during the party and rebirth phase. The players are learning. However, this may lead to a first or second blood depending on the player's various tropes and plot armor level. Doomed. The rule keeper is after you. All bets are off. You have either broken character one too many times while on screen, or you have broken a critical rule of Carousel. Once this has happened, an implacable villain is now chasing you. Your tropes will not work against it. Your plot armor is irrelevant. Once you are caught, you will disappear. Period, and permanently. As far as anyone knows in the story written so far, you are unrecoverable. You are gone. Now for the off-screen. I say this for last because it has some rather interesting mechanics. In this web novel, and as the doomed condition states, you are expected to maintain the lore of the storylines you are participating in. As I mentioned earlier, this is why I call Riley a viewpoint character as opposed to a main character, as in, during most storylines, he isn't the main character. He's a viewpoint character, and generally a minor one at that. Aside from your plot armor and tropes, acting the part on screen is important. Failure to do this will attract the rule keeper's attention. Having said that, like many horror movies in real life, characters are not on screen at all times. Being off screen means that the player can break lore, break character, talk shop, strategize, and do things that don't attract the rule keeper's attention. Also, there's a lower chance of you being attacked or slain. Deaths that happen on screen are far more traumatic and dramatic than deaths that happen off screen. Players can take advantage of this with the use of various tropes, which we will go over in a minute, that allows them to force themselves on or off screen as needed. It's all about the strategy, folks. Well, tropers, we finally come to the part that you have been waiting for. The tropes. Alluded to throughout this video, tropes are skills, spells, and abilities that are equipped to both the players and the monsters. Players and monsters have them, and powerful ones can manipulate characters, NPCs, and even the entire storyline. Tropes are indeed a superpower, but they do not guarantee survival. One example is the viewpoint character's Oblivious Bystander trope. When used, the monster cannot harm him no matter how low his grit or hustle stats are. But only if he can convincingly act like he doesn't know the monster is nearby. Should his act fail, he is in deep trouble. An example of a more powerful trope, written by Lost Rambler and transcribed by Webb the Chronic Lurker, is the cut the head off the snake trope. Once equipped, it changes the win condition of a storyline that requires the elimination of all enemies to only require the death of the leader. One and done, if you can find and reach the leader, which may not necessarily be easy. Yet another manipulation trope is the reload after cut, which, when equipped, makes the character go off screen while reloading. This means that the player is less likely to be killed and can also break character if needed. Here is a breakdown of the equipable trope tickets in the web novel. Of note is the last entry, the yellow tickets, which also proves that the viewpoint character has stepped into a living world that has been active long before his introduction. I also want to point out the healing tropes, which don't necessarily heal a wound per se, but simply remove the pain and status ailments affected to it.
Gee, did you make a movie mistake? You forgot to reload the damn gun.
No, Jack. I just left one chamber empty.
What is this, some kind of a joke? I wouldn't even call this a flesh wound. Come on, here, let's get him.
All in all, this is a wonderful novel, and I can't recommend it enough. Tropers, if you have the time, log in to Royal Road and view this novel. You won't be disappointed. Well, that's all from me. Cheers, Tropers!